Monsters are everywhere. Some of the most powerful monsters come from places you wouldn't expect. Hell, even the Bible had monsters in it. Behemoth was one of them. But what if Behemoth isn't just some dusty myth collecting cobwebs in ancient texts? What if our ancestors actually witnessed something this goddamn monstrous stomping around in the wild? We're talking about a beast with the kind of thirst that could drain entire rivers dry. This thing would make today's cryptids look like hamsters. But here's the kicker. Recent fossil finds in remote corners of the world are making scientists rethink what sorts of giants might have been kicking it alongside our ancestors. So hang on to your ass. We're about to rip into the evidence, the secrets, and the possibility that something this massive might still be lurking out there in the shadows. All right, folks. Today, we're diving headfirst into something that'll make your ass itch with questions. We're talking about Behemoth. I'm not talking about some run-of-the-mill cryptid sighting or blurry trail cam footage. Fuck no. I'm talking about a monster so massive and mysterious, it's in the Old Testament itself. Picture this. You're flipping through the Bible in the book of Job, trying to snag a little spiritual wisdom, and you get blindsided by a creature that sounds like it stomped right out of Jurassic Park. Bones like bronze, muscles rippling like iron cables, a tail so thick and heavy it's compared to a cedar tree. Yeah, not your average barnyard animal. This beast could drink entire rivers dry and just laugh at spears and swords bouncing off its hide like toothpicks. But here's where things get beefy. Was Behemoth just some ancient campfire story that spiraled out of control? Or did the authors of these ancient texts actually see something colossal lumbering across the landscape? I mean, come on. These weren't exactly fantasy writers spinning dragon tales for the hell of it. These were people documenting what they believed was real, and they didn't skimp on the details. The biblical description reads less like a myth and more like a witness report. Anatomy, behavior, warnings about how utterly untamable this fucker was. Now, fast forward to today, and science is starting to get a little sweaty under the collar. Recent fossil finds in some of the world's most remote corners are making paleontologists rethink the upper limits of prehistoric giants. We're talking about land animals that make elephants look like fucking lapdogs. Creatures that inspired legends like Behemoth without even breaking a sweat. So here's what's coming up. I'm opening up the evidence that mainstream science simply won't touch. Dusting off ancient accounts that are way too specific to just brush off as bullshit. And of course, we'll tackle the wildest theories out there. Because if there's even a sliver of a chance something this big once walked alongside our ancestors, we sure as hell need to talk about it. Let's get it. Now here's where the monster lore gets real meaty. Behemoth isn't just some one-off freak in the biblical bestiary. He's the poster child for a global obsession with giant, earth-rattling beasts. Across the world, humans have been spinning tales about creatures so damn massive they make you question your place on the food chain. And honestly, the stories are so similar, it's like there's a universal cryptid playbook stashed away out there somewhere. Let's start in the Gobi Desert, where locals whisper about the Mongolian deathworm. Yeah, This isn't your garden variety nightcrawler. Hell no. This fucker is a fat, blood-red tube of terror that spits acid and zaps prey with electric shocks. The nomads say it's big enough to kill a camel and completely untouchable by any human hand. Sound familiar? Just like Behemoth, it's an untamable land beast. A force of nature you just don't fuck with. Hop over to North America and you'll meet the legendary Thunderbird, a creature so monstrous its wings could block out the sun. Native American stories say these birds created thunder with a single flap of their wings and could snatch whales from the sea. They weren't just animals, they were living storms, divine enforcers, and earth shakers. If Behemoth had wings, he'd be in the same weight class. The Celts? They had giant boars, monstrous, tusked brutes that tore through forests and armies alike. These beasts weren't just big, they were symbols of wild nature, chaos, and raw, untamable power. Warriors wanted to be like them, gods feared them, and stories about them bled into every corner of Celtic myth. Again, the same theme. The bigger the beast, the bigger the legend. Then there's the Mesopotamian bull of heaven. This wasn't your average angry cow. This monster was a divine juggernaut sent down to punish mortals. A beast so terrifying it left cities in ruins and heroes dead in its wake. These weren't just stories to scare the shit out of kids. They were cultural fault lines, reminders that the land itself could cough up something wild and unstoppable at any moment. And it's not just in the old countries. Australia's got its bunyips. Africa's got the Emula Intuka, and even the frozen north has its own tales of giant, shaggy, smelly-ass monsters lurking just out of sight. It's like humanity has a collective memory of being hunted and humbled by things way bigger and badder than us. But Behemoth isn't just another face in the monster crowd. He's cryptid royalty. Imagine a legendary beast roll call. Mokele Mbembe, the Congo's river titan. Leviathan, the sea's armored nightmare. The Nephilim, those towering biblical hybrids. Each one is a riff on the same tune. The undiscovered giant lurking just out of sight, kicking ass through the pages of history and legend. Behemoth's got the pedigree. He's the OG land cryptid, the goddamn blueprint for every giant beast story that followed. Now, the fun part. Watch how these legends mutate a little depending on where you are. In the Middle East, you get sand giants, monsters like Phallic, a serpent so big it wraps around the world. Or Behemoth, the cosmic fish so vast that all the oceans are like a single drop in its nostril. These stories pop up in places where the land itself feels infinite and dangerous, where something huge could easily vanish without a trace. Head north into Europe, and the forests and mountains start spawning their own giants. Think trolls in Scandinavia. Huge, stone-skinned brutes that blend into the cliffs. Or the Leshy in Slavic folklore, a forest giant who lures travelers off the path. In Basque mythology, you get the Basajan, an incredibly towering, hairy wild man said to guard the forests and warn shepherds of approaching wolves. These monsters are shaped by their habitats, sneaky, camouflaged, built to haunt the places people fear to tread. Even ancient Greece got in on the action with Typhon, A monster so tall and terrifying, even the gods had to team up and take him down. Typhon had snake legs, 100 dragon heads, and a temper that would make your mother-in-law's fury feel like a warm hug. He's the chaos engine behind every ancient disaster, the ultimate don't fuck with me monster. What's wild is that a lot of these tales started with folks stumbling across giant bones, mammoth tusks, dinosaur femurs, whale vertebrae, half buried in the dirt and sand. Imagine being a Bronze Age farmer digging up a bone the size of a tree trunk. Shit, you'd invent a monster too. In England, ammonite fossils were called snake stones. In Mongolia, dinosaur skeletons likely inspired the death worm. We see the bones, we spin the stories, and the monsters live on. Fast forward to today, and Behemoth is still crashing through our imaginations. Only now he's got a cult following. Cryptid hunters, armchair theorists, and monster fans keep Behemoth alive by plugging him into every new giant animal mystery. No fresh sightings? No problem. He's the ancient template for every new unidentified giant story. Bigfoot, Mapinguari, hell, even the Jersey Devil. If it's huge, weird, and just out of reach, it's walking in Behemoth's footsteps. Modern monster lore is basically a remix of these ancient blueprints. Every time someone sees a giant snake in the Amazon, or a thunderbird in Alaska, or a Mokele Mbembe in the Congo, they're channeling the same primal fascination that birthed Behemoth. We know there's something out there that's bigger, badder, and older than anything science can explain. And it's not just about fear. There's an awe to these stories. A sense that the world is still wild, still hiding secrets that could flatten us if they felt like it. Behemoth isn't just a monster, he's a reminder that for most of human history, we weren't the apex predators. The earth belonged to giants of all kinds, and we were just trying to survive in their shadows. So why do these legends stick around? Because they're more than monster stories. They're survival guides, warnings, and a cold realism all rolled into one. They tell us to respect the unknown, to keep our egos in check, and to never ever assume we've seen it all. Behemoth is the monster that set the standard. The original "holy shit, what the fuck is that?" moment that every culture keeps coming back to. And let's be honest, in a world where new species are being discovered on a daily basis and ancient fossils keep rewriting the history books, who's to say the Behemoth isn't just waiting to be uncovered? All right, let's throw on the mud boots and get into the nitty-gritty. What's the actual physical proof that Behemoth ever trudged across the ancient world? For all the poetic verses and wild campfire stories, the evidence trail is a maze of dead ends, wild theories, and a few jaw-dropping "wait, what if" moments. Here's how the hunt for Behemoth's bones and footprints has played out. No myth, just the chase for hard facts. If Behemoth was a flesh and blood beast, you'd expect some fossilized leftovers, right? Giant femurs poking out of riverbanks, skulls the size of bathtubs, maybe even a tailbone that could double as a telephone pole. But the reality? Not a single fossil has ever been found and definitively linked to Behemoth. No museum label reads "Behemoth, certified monster." Still, a few fossil discoveries have fueled the fire. Some paleontologists have pointed to the remains of Baluchitherium, a prehistoric rhinoceros that was basically a tank with legs, clocking in at nearly 15 feet at the shoulder and weighing as much as 4 elephants. Its bones are massive, and its build lines up with the bones of bronze, muscles like iron cables language you find in ancient texts. Problem is, Baluchitherium fossils are found in Central Asia, not the biblical heartlands. Close, but no cigar. Then you get the crowd who champion the Behemoth was a dinosaur theory. They zero in on the Book of Job's tail like a cedar tree line, because, let's be real, a hippo or elephant's pussy-looking tail isn't exactly tree trunk material. Sauropods, those long-necked, whip-tailed giants from the Jurassic, fit the description perfectly. But there's a catch: the timeline. Mainstream science says dinosaurs and humans missed each other by about 65 million years. Unless someone's got a time machine or someone digs up bones to the contrary, the fossil record just doesn't back this one up. Despite the fossil dry spell, reports of massive, mysterious beasts haven't stopped. Over the last century, a handful of cryptid hunters and explorers have chased rumors of gigantic, unknown animals that sound suspiciously behemoth-esque. Eyewitness accounts trickle in from remote river valleys and wild marshes. Stories of creatures with enormous, pillar-like legs, thick-ass hides, and a presence that makes the ground tremble. In the late 20th century, expeditions in the Middle East and Central Asia turned up tales from locals about enormous, water-dwelling beasts that could upend boats and flatten trees. Some even described seeing tracks, massive, rounded impressions in the mud far too big for any known animal in the region. In 1948, for example, a team in Siberia reported stumbling across gigantic footprints pressed deep into the permafrost. The prints were spaced and shaped in ways that didn't match mammoths, bears, or any other known megafauna. While skeptics chalked it up to misidentification or melting ice playing tricks, the find still gets talked about in cryptozoology circles. Over the years, more than a few boots-on-the-ground expeditions have tried to crack the behemoth code. In the early 2000s, cryptozoologists armed with sonar, night vision, and enough tech to power a small city set out for the ancient river systems of the Middle East. They interviewed locals, scanned the waters for massive shapes, and set up cameras in the hopes of catching something world-shaking on film. The result? Lots of stories, a few blurry photos, and the occasional mysterious splash in the night. But nothing you could slap on the lap table and say, "Here's your behemoth." Still, the sheer number of locals who swear up and down they've seen something huge keeps the search alive. Ask 10 scientists what behemoth was, and you'll get 12 different answers. The traditional answer is a giant hippopotamus. Big, dangerous, and native to the region. But the details don't quite fit. Let's be honest. Hippos aren't the final boss of creation, and their tails are, frankly, pretty flaccid. Elephants get floated as candidates, but again, the tail and sheer size described don't add up. Some researchers suggest Behemoth was a composite, a mashup of several real animals, exaggerated over generations of retelling. Others think it might be a memory of now extinct megafauna, like ancient proboscideans or massive bovines that once roamed the Near East. There's even a fringe camp that argues for a surviving prehistoric giant hiding out in the deep backwaters. But without bones, it's all just educated guesswork. Here's the cold, muddy reality. There's no skeleton in a museum, no DNA sample, no behemoth hide nailed to a wall somewhere. The physical proof is, so far, a big fat zero. Every fossil find either doesn't match the location, the time period, or the specific description. Every cryptid report peters out under scrutiny, and every scientific theory has a hole you could drive a truck through. But here's the twist. Absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. The Middle East is a huge fossil sandbox waiting to be dug into, and new species are currently still being unearthed in places scientists swore were picked clean. Maybe Behemoth is still out there, buried under centuries of mud and myth, waiting for the right shovel or the right set of eyes. For now, the Behemoth remains a tantalizing question mark. No bones, no body, just a trail of clues, theories, and enough mystery to keep the legend alive. But if history's taught us anything, it's that the wild still has secrets. And a lot of times, the biggest monsters leave the smallest traces. What would you consider the smoking gun for Behemoth? A fossil? A photo? Or is the legend itself enough to keep you wondering? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get weird. Okay, let's bring this monster chase home. After tearing through ancient scriptures, checking out fossilized bones the size of Buicks, and putting pieces of the puzzle together from cryptid lore to modern monster sightings, Behemoth still stands, massive, mysterious, and grinning like a statue built to scare gods. Is he a folk memory of some Ice Age juggernaut? The world's oldest tall tale? Or is there still something out there, stomping around just beyond the edge of our headlights? That's the eternal question mark that keeps coming back to bite us on the ass. Here's what's wild. Every corner of the globe, from the Congo to the Celtic wilds, has its own version of the Earthshaker. Behemoth, Mokele Mbembe, Thunderbirds, giant boars. It doesn't matter where you look. You'll find stories of creatures so big they make you feel like an ant in a mosh pit. It's a pattern older than civilization itself. Maybe it's an evolutionary echo from when we dodged saber-toothed cats and mastodons. Or maybe we just crave a little awe, something to remind us we're not as big and bad as we think we are. However, the search ain't over. Not by a fucking long shot. Even if you never find a Behemoth footprint in your backyard, the hunt for answers keeps us all digging. Every fresh fossil find, every strange track in the mud, every blurry trail cam photo that makes you go, wait, what the hell is that? It all stokes the fire. Because deep down, we realize that giants might still roam the wild places just out of reach. So now, it's your turn to dig. The Behemoth mystery isn't some dusty relic. It's alive and kicking, just waiting for the next curious soul to pick up the trail. Stay sharp, keep your eyes peeled, and remember, in a world where new species are still popping up and ancient bones are rewriting the rulebook, anything's possible. The next legend could be waiting just beyond the next ridge or in the shadows behind you. If you think the Behemoth would make the ultimate guard dog, tap that like button and subscribe. That way you won't miss out on more of my fucked up commentary. And besides, I really do appreciate it. What's the wildest giant beast story you've heard? Drop it in the comments and let's keep this hunt rolling. And if you're ready to crank that shit up to 11, that join button's got your name on it. For just $2.99, you can have my back in a huge way. Until next time, y'all keep it real, keep it chill, and stay creepy! Catch you on the flip. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. You are the real beast.